Yesterday, a nurse finished a 12-hour shift, saved multiple lives, skipped lunch, barely could make it to the bathroom. And yet, she got called sister. Welcome to a country that loves its nurses, but does not pay enough respect. They say language shapes the way we see the world. But what happens when a single word shapes how an entire profession is seen? The word sister. Once it was a title of deep respect, born in the age of Florence Nightingale, symbolizing compassion, service, and devotion. But somewhere along the way, it's lost its meaning. In Nepal and possibly across South Asia, sister has become a habit more than an honor. Patients say it casually, institutions write it into policy, and society repeats it without thought. But here's the truth. Nurses didn't study sisterhood. Nurses studied nursing, a science, a discipline, a profession built on skill, knowledge, and care. So why do we still call nurses sister, but never call doctors dai? Are we practicing medicine or practicing relationships? It's time to ask, does tradition still serve us, or does it quietly limit the respect nurses deserve? Maybe it's time to retire sister and reclaim nurse. I'm Susmrita Bilbase with Chatter on the Streets, and this is Behind the Scrubs, the Nurses of Nepal. When it comes to nursing in Nepal, the data is endless. Reports, reels, hashtags, awareness TikToks, but has anything actually changed? Nepal has more than 125,000 registered nurses, and yet hospitals remain short-staffed. Many earn less than rupees 18,000. The law says rupees 34,730 rupees. Somewhere between those numbers, respect disappears. Apparently, the minimum wage is optional. In the same government, one minister signs a deal to export Nepali nurses abroad, while another, just a few offices away, signs a WHO report calling us a critical shortage zone. So which is it, dear government? A surplus to ship or a crisis to declare? The WHO isn't wrong. The shortages are real. Thousands of nurses are leaving everywhere, driven out by the low pay, impossible working conditions, and policies that never reach the ground. Instead of fixing the leak, we're proudly bottling it for export. And yes, burnout is very real. Nurses care for everyone, then go home to emotional fatigue and an unpaid electricity bill. A few months ago, nurses across Nepal hit the streets, demanding fairness, respect, and safety. But here we are again, scrolling, sighing, moving on. Let's talk about what isn't in the data. Most nurses are afraid to speak up. They have no one to advocate for them. Some hospitals report that 60 to 70% of the nurses have already passed the NCLEX and are preparing to leave. So I asked, how will you manage when they go? The answer was chilling. We just pull nurses from the ward or step-down units and assign them ICU patients. A day of orientation and they're on their own. That's not management. That's endangerment for both nurses and patients. Add to that the verbal abuse from seniors, the relentless shifts, and the silence that follows every complaint. Who's protecting those who protect everyone else? In some surgical wards, the nurse-to-patient ratio is 1:14. At that point, no paycheck is worth the risk. Because it's not just about the money, it's about safety, dignity, and trust. We talk about security checks at airports, but what about safety checks in our hospitals? What about maintenance of protocols, ensuring standards, valuing human lives inside those walls? This is what invisible burnout looks like. Nurses who can't speak up, who fear backlash, they quietly prepare to leave. And can you blame them? Has anyone ever asked a nurse, or not, why did you become one? But what keeps you from leaving? Has any patient thanked you in a way that made the struggle worth it? Do policymakers even know the people they write policies for? To every nurse listening, between the scrubs, the sarcasm, and the invisible burnout, you are the system. And to everyone else, next time you meet a nurse, skip the "wow, you're so brave" speech. Try asking, what do you need? Because until we value the labor behind those scrubs, we'll keep losing the people who keep us alive. If our leaders won't do the math, we'll keep reading the data out loud. And hopefully, the next vital thing you share is change. You've been listening to Chatter on the Streets, Behind the Scrubs, the Nurses of Nepal. We don't have a shortage of nurses. We have a shortage of respect. And until that changes, this country will continue to export care and import consequences.